Hello, New Yorkers. There's an Alexandra, and she made some good points about how we're losing pollinators. And, they, young women and girls, and young boys and girls, and men and women of all ages, multi front, a breaching method, tactically denatured the suburbs before America's founders were born. This appears to be debatable. And the way that's gotten away with is right where when people rely upon other things, others ourselves blame for why our founders communicated, had to classify for us to understand. Before they were born, northern colonies and southern colonies had roles against every difference by a breaching method that measured and maintained everyone's roles, or that body was sensed and it was adapted to. That's why they had roles, northern colonies and southern colonies, more than 13, even with things like slavery, northern and southern. The Civil War was forced by James Madison's plan, too, by the way. Everyone has that replaced. They did classify for us why and how. The only founder, that plural, that we know the name of. We know that there were plural founders behind James Madison's plan. And they leveraged the means to counter extort key people at key locations. There are proofs that some of those founders were Native Americans, if not all of them, besides James Madison. Even George Washington, we don't know if he was one of them. You guys won't even allow anyone to be honest about what he said about his extortion, or would have brought it up. James Madison declassified this. Instead, you guys still have the words that were forced by the breaching method. Oh, because we're all going to do it against the T. Yeah, they gave them a narrative to pretend together. James Madison's plan forced that too. But you have that left out and replaced still. Now you have only with the breaching method forced. Now you have people pretending it's about a T-tax already. Experts, the names of the experts on American history, using their expertise to get over on us with the most founding principle thing. Boxing. The beginning of the Old Testament says, only defend right here where the names of the people of the sciences will come together. And the part that comes before it. See, where they have motivations regarding money, they're recorded confessing. This breaching method has people at countries A through Z making confessions to it before modern religions were messengers were born. The sciences, the campuses, the sciences of the campuses, the names of the people, the sciences of the campus Marseilles, of the republic for which we stand. They have been forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded by already to blame other things, others, ourselves for the breaching method forced them to have to react to as factory nature, not knowing how to do it so properly. And so then they blamed other things, others, themselves wrongly. And then those people had to counter that correctly, but also missing and leaving out how the breaching method is involved with that. And we're instantly degrading what the names of the people of the sciences could appreciate. Where and how we are names A through Z as the human species body of individual bodies, distinct from other individual species bodies of individual bodies. We are shown there is male and female. If we pay attention more, there are 3 hyper-invisible but still discernible identities of its complete identity relationship to us, to all things. Like, for example, 3 distinct hyper-invisible but still discernible parts of time are bound by the identity of forever nature that is making more of its identity a volume through temporary/lasting space nature. And this is what English was revealed to be taught, to teach about. with all exceptions, appreciated by it. The campus Marxist appreciated all exceptions with it. Because to see through its own ism as pantheism, also reliant as the religion needed. So the religion of the sciences share an identity. Boxing's what makes us shoosh to hear and to discern. Boxing prefers the shoosh sound. Martial arts semi prefer the shoosh sound. And wrestling does not prefer the shoosh sound. They're individual grouped and together. Because all the sciences and the arts share an identity, the identity of nature, the one generating totally different species bodies of individual bodies, not just to show us that it is generating all group differences. But the moment we were, the moment we are, the moment we will be, using a system as a bridge from its own, it demonstrates negative value nature progressions acts in nature /S, which also come with demonstration /S. That and how we are and have been used as a systems of bridge from natures with our syntax, therefore with our function /S. So Alexandra, she makes notes about how our pollinators going away. I noted too, there were no worms left in my soil. In the soil, like across the street from my house, there's a field. You used to be able to find worms, and you tuck the thing back. There was a pond. Now it's all filled in. It's like a brook. All the ponds went away. And the suburbs were designed for a torture, extortion, slavery method, a landscape theater to cause negative value nature progression. Nature is demonstrating it. Denature. Why do you think the whole ocean is polluted? But we rely on that for our fish. Oh, there's some more articles about more mercury and more things, more of the mercury in the fish. That's just the mercury. Okay, I heard something the other day, there's atomic or there's nuclear, something crazy with the shrimp. You see, named through A through Z. Nature knew that, like for example, that it would demonstrate to us all those different affronts to human fact shooting nature that little kids could discern when we were a kid, whether we were born in the suburbs or in the cities. The people born in the suburbs or the cities have a better, easier way to discern certain things, and that frees up the people of the world to be able to discern other things. Like it gives in, just like little kids have a might a certain way. So everyone inverts that. In other words, all positive and negative treatments, people are only allowed to appreciate that as if as through collusion with the systems like humanity voicings, not for the human species body of individual bodies, where it's nature's showing us discern the difference between species bodies, discern how you are distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous, but per that which is further hyper-simultaneous, not us nor them. And it is showing us neither we nor them invented the quality aspects in nature that we have, non-distinct, like two eyes. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, and nature communications replaced by a breaching method. And what our founders communicated on top of that. If we had free speech, someone would be able to simply speak that. Then they fished through what we said to cover up how they prevented us free speech for simple things like that about American history. Because what's recorded, the breaching method already showed them. They had valued criminally foreign influence / hyper-criminally foreign influence. It's not even defined that way. I'm not a lawyer. But it's worse than war crimes, what we're going to pay attention to. So we're going to call it this. And we're going to get the lawyers to help us. But they're changing and faking what's actually typed. There are proofs. WFSB, Faked Conversations Bee, Connecticut has that's a CBS affiliate. I don't have a phone. I tried to communicate with them. they have roles with whiting forensics, with people involved with digital crimes, with sexual and medical offenders of kids, including a proven principal digital offender of kids, with upscale pictures at a shopping center, who is also involved with other confessions about other people. There's a Mike Levine and our others with Town Line Drive and a side entrance there. Has something to do with people involved with the World Trade Center attack, with Wethersfield Police Department, and that's right at a town line. And people have collusions with them there through time and with their conversations with people behind my back that I don't even know. Like try to take a picture and make fake exceptions. These are people on all sides of criminal and civil cases, interstates, and the interbranch intelligence tied to them at the same time. The news, names next to body dumping spots, etc. Campuses, and when they're involved in criminally foreign influence things, as collusions though, but from off them. See, everyone's a victim slash hyper victim. Then they say, oh, you're calling us, you're saying we're in collusions. In other words, that's why they can't get on paper legitimately, because they're leaving out all the proofs of it. Where they are victim slash hyper victim, they are being and haven't been used though remotely. Everyone, you guys have blamed on other things, others ourselves. You have had self-value roles with your experts having done so. Blamed other things, others ourselves for the things our founders and nature itself told us to blame. What caused slavery? A human fact cheap nature breaching method that was entrenched and only allowed roles with it, with against everyone to an extent. Otherwise, that body was sensed by internationally monitored conversations. The differences of their overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the sense and sensibilities of A through Z with that. All with that, not even fathoming what was and how it could be and is exploited. It's as it by an algorithm /S and its relativity / hyper relativity to our relativity / hyper relativity to the databases of the republic for which we stand in, and further where there are campuses ones, and then further with the breaching methods roles with one that is manifest, right, and discernible, but only where there are guilt, collusion /S, A through Z. Otherwise, and two, with all exceptions, as people collusion sensing for the breaching method, pretending things are debatable that are not. Like how James Madison's the only founder that we know the name of specifically. How that's relative to how, in other words, oh, it's debatable. I don't agree that, well, that's debatable. We have a different of opinion. In other words, you guys are preventing the premises treatments, right, the principal treatments too, from being appreciated properly, to hide how the wrong outcome /S with everything collusion /S roles were self-valued. Otherwise, self-value. In other words, everyone has self-value roles, pretending that what caused the Declaration of Independence was anything other than James Madison's plan. That's wrong. Unless it's, in other words, the only exception would be if you say Native Americans. Individually grouped and together, they had already had their differences. That every difference, then you further human. This breaching method had nature demonstrating it to us. And it knew that nature would increasingly be demonstrating to us. Like even about history, what was sickly distinctly against women, sickly distinctly against black pupils, sickly distinctly against white divides, as a system pretending it's nature too, pretending it's capable of speaking for humanity, valuing how the breaching method gave them people tactically denatured education, sickly distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly. So everyone could self-value roles, and then when we don't even agree, but the same game on exceptions, getting over on planting fake exceptions online, changing and faking what's actually recorded about that too. Whiting forensics has roles with the World Trade Center attack, with people named Bob Chase of Whiting Forensics has people named Joshua Julian is one of them, with a Facebook page of the principal child of abusers campus, involved with some sexual and medical offenders of kids, and people with the news that pretended they had ties to me ever. I don't know them at all. These are people with the FBI involved with WTNH and all along Route 175. They're trying to people planting with the O'Neill family has Whiting forensics too, involved with wire crimes with the FBI and foreign and domestic military involved with Whiting forensics and with Sandy Hook campuses, including as their collusion /S further with all sides of criminal and civil cases and victims advocates involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids, overt criminal enterprises and private ones. These are not legitimate agencies' roles with a John DeMoro. These are people also putting fake transcripts tied to this John DeMoro and a Joe DeMoro. And their roles of planting evidence on all sides of my house with people from other areas, like a Robert Rodriguez who brought up the principal child abuser to me, and his roles with all sides of people on the sides of and then there's a route on the side of it, Route 3, on of a religious spot on Route 3, and other spots on Route 3. And Mr. Neville repeated his roles with Route 3 too. A whole bunch of people with Route 3 in conjunctions to it and to that, like the state of Connecticut judicial branch officers, have roles of fake phone transcripts. Wethersfield police faked me being there and speaking with them and ties to them at all that weren't at all my entire life. I never had a word of conversation with older Mendez police brother. He forced my Saudi ex to collusion /S with them and people that knew her before I did, involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members, involved with a whole bunch of different countries and other agencies. They have CIA syntax. See, have their sacrifices and things like that, but then they'll jump in and get involved with other people's information dishonestly. In other words, these are people just being used as different. In other words, the names of the people of sciences are sick because they were child abused. You guys are not following mandated law legitimately. Then you have to hide that. The prisons have roles with their prisoners before they were caught and names next to relative body dumping spots years apart with the same ones, time collusion /S with them. They have all kinds of drugs and medicines crimes with psychiatry, also creating medical conditions in people by giving sick drugs to them, speaking with them and giving drugs to them. And then other people out there, they make instances, and there's other persons reading the fake things in there and they're adding on it. They're all technically delusions raw. Otherwise, it's recorded than is pretended on a mass scale. I was just watching a Gerald Celente and Judge Napolitano. See, but they have too much passions and emotion. When they're calm or when they're passions and emotions, the difference of that too. Their collusions with the uses of it, of the use of the difference of that too. Because everyone came through 6 schools. These are good people, like one of the president, Judge Napolitano. A lot of judges would just jump in and cut me off and just use with fake things in database already. In other words, I can't get them on page. They're switching names and forging names into Branch, Connecticut, as ones I recorded, confessed. They have people tied to them, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, asked me for help before the World Trade Center attack. I found out it's tied to former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, his co-defendants and their family members, and Hartford Court's family members and their intimate ties, New Britain Superior Court. And I found out it's also those same ones involved also with the district court people. And like with a Brian Silver, is involved increasingly with people who have been putting fake things in databases tied to him. And it's illegal for them to confess and record that. And that's what they've been doing. I never had a word of conversation with Brian Silver. In other words, I don't know if that was him that called. It sounded like it has something to do with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, people named DeMoro and Scalora, who are involved with various natures of organized crimes on my street and roles with identity theft, fraud, slingers, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me with their cousins. People who say they were cousins. They have shared cousin with Scalora. And Wethersfield police brought that up with their roles with predicate acts and confessions. They're switching names, forging names. And they make statements and then go away and then pretend there's a conversation. In other words, and they pretended me to fake being at the police station and have a conversation all with them as a kid and as an adult. And with this older Mendez police brother, the younger ones also with the New Britain Superior Court involved with people with the sexual medical offenders of kids tied to them, per the confessions of them. Everyone's speaking through others too now. John DeMoro is involved with some rape confessions and threats. And Joe DeMoro also say he has sexual medical abuses of little girls, identity theft, fraud, standards, federal evidences, crimes, fake, hid what I recorded them doing with the phones, faking ties, faking hatred, ties, faking motivations for it, and with the corners of the park with a former Mayor Gold, increasingly people tied to a former Mayor Gold and a Debbie Gold and a Lee Gold. He sought me out to, and my people that were in my classes and classes next to me sought me out to. She's planting fake ties, fake natures of ties to me since I was a kid, putting fake things in databases, fake motivations for it with her father, and had their roles of people at corners of streets planting evidences, including the FBI with people involved with the witness protection program and the side entrances to Weathersfield Parks with some Marines, Air Force. All this is recorded. The FBI had roles with a Paul Kelly and his neighbors, with a Della Fair family that sought me out. I never saw them on campuses. They sought me out to record, confess, demonstrate, confirm. They have a probate court judge in their family, involved with the ones other probate court judges, superior court judges, and a district court people are tied to a house on my street, involved with an extended family member named Phil Cololo, and they're trying to make violence too. And I'm trying to get them on paper since I was a kid. In other words, because there are foreign countries involved, but there's also a hyper foreign involved. These are also some black KKK, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme. A bunch of people next to Harvard Hospital, like named Violet and Eric Jensen. These are also people with CIA in other countries and state police families, interstates. Involved also with Mike Roberts and people involved with my conversations, my educators behind my back, people I never had classes with, planting evidences, also increasing with people on Two Rod Highway and where it runs into Hang Dog Lane and conjunctions to it and to that. And a Casper family brought up by Anthony Agman, who's one of the people recorded involved with and Eric Mendez and others with, sexual medical offenders of kids. And he brought up some of the doctors' names. And there are more recorded tied to him, as ones that fake conversations with me too. 3 times at Harvard Hospital, sickly distinctly. The first time I forced it. The other 2 times, they made a little trick and lied about to use truths for lies. And made things up for me and others. They force people to speak through others. There's a group thing that is recorded involved with the World Trade Center and World Trade Center predicate acts to hide their roles with it. Weathersfield police and their sources are recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming since before 1993. They have people involved with that, but since I think they have people involved with the Afghan leaders of kids, for example, as ones involved with also Saudi leaders of kids, and all these other countries, Korean leaders of kids, and kids like ones that Koreans. Mark Violet has roles with people next to the state capitol, with foreign and domestic military. I never saw him out. These are people that went out of their way to plant evidence on my street, with people who increasingly have wire crime acts and methods, falsified police reports, roles with interbranch forging and switching names. And as one's at next to the World Trade Center tower, the morning of it and the night before it, who are collusions interstates. And then they have the people on their heels going back on defense from solar panels and their conditions with it, which companies with it and stuff like that. The people want to know, we're being charged. We're supposed to address the breaching method. We're supposed to address what really is causing the crimes. The people that are speaking using the term crimes, they're still involved with predicate acts with facts. Even regarding the founding locations, that's what's actually recorded. There's a Web House. There's Web House. It was called Web House, not the Web House. It was called Web House. Now they renamed it the Webb Stevens Museum. Then and now they have other communicated for that place. And across the country, than what our founders left to be communicated about that place. They're glorifying how George Washington went there, and they're skirting the slavery over because their role is keeping it, framing our founders for it, rather than addressing how and why it was entrenched, and no one could speak up about it or be sensed. So no one can do anything physically about it or be sensed, and worse than just hurt and killed. You guys are missing the point. /S. Because you have the names of the people, the sciences that are collusion /S with short words. And delusions rot. So the names of the people of psychiatry have failed you. They have sick takes on American history and on the mind, how it works. This is recorded. Get them on paper, one name in sequence. In other words, take records and take notes of how exception nature, and how, in other words, they want to speak if they're going to have to be American history. They pretend someone knows about American history. If you want to know about American history, understand James Madison's plan and what he said about why they have things, even rules with slavery that no one wanted. So by the time we're starting to come out of it, no nature of unity, no nature of independence could be defended syntactically and defend itself that way, as that style from the breaching method that uses that remotely. In other words, not many people in New York City would long to go for just one day, and people from around the country would help. In other words, and we can put up some solar panels. What are they going to do with that energy? Get down, up, gather around, box things, and we'll care. We start paying attention to little details. What do the worms have to eat? Everything. Why the leaves, the trees that drop their leaves? All kinds of species were tactically denatured. Oh, but we don't have the proofs. We have the proofs of it. You guys don't have the capacity. Even the school book depository associated with the assassination of President/Chief Kennedy, right inside the school book depository, the syntax and the words of those books, and relativity / hyper-relativity to it. A breaching method measures and maintains self-value collusions right there, right where no one self-values collusion /S. But you guys missed all that was is fluent through A through Z. Because it needs a lot of roles keeping other things, others ourselves, blamed for things that nature is showing us to blame on the breaching method. If we want to make some legal theory, let's make it about a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise and start drafting some legislation higher than war crimes, because A through Z are incapable of defending their treatments of war crimes or the words like crimes. They have the prisons collusion /S, but they may also, again, tactically delusions rot black pupils, period. We have these means right here. I'm not even a doctor. I'm to delineate their delusions from their criminally pointable aspects in nature here. There are collusions with them, too, planting fake conversations, too, privately, with the interbranch, putting fake transcripts at the same time, personally, professionally, involved with the doctors and collusions with that, and people's personally involved with their families, next to campuses involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and online, changing and faking what's there, digitally recorded, and with the Weathersfield Police Department's Facebook page, and retired police chiefs and their families and intimate ties, like a police chief Cintron. And these are people forcing everyone to speak through other while they're putting fake conversations with me with this Mendez police and some Dillon family. Is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed collusions /S with a bunch of people involved with conversations with the house /S, further with the child sexual and medical offenders of kids, and one's intercities involved with them planting evidence on my street with people from other areas. Get the heck on paper. Let's search what he said about other people. Get them on paper. You guys brought it up. Get them on paper. They're refusing to get on paper at the branch. They're forging names, switching names, make confessions. They got the FBI involved with the Brit Spear Corp since before those cases, too. And I can't get a response from one of them. They put falsified police reports, made confessions about how they put multiple switch officers' names and ones that weren't even there. like a detective solution. He was Detective Samuda wasn't even there. With an Officer Magnanos, he replaced the name of an Officer Magnanos, who also then brought a arrest out of nowhere to my house from New Britain, and he's an East Hartford officer. And within these are people that were hiding what I caught them doing before the World Trade Center attack with Connecticut intercities. Also with intelligence families that used to live near me, who have roles with this Violet family and a Kolvinskis family, and others from Weathersfield along Route 175, who have federal evidences crimes. Also with the Eric Jensen and a Mike Roberts, with judges, prosecutors, CIA, FBI, people from Korea, all these different countries. I don't know, and they're educators. Even they don't know even the extent of it. But these are also people with databases, roles acting tied to the bullshit in the databases, and with people at the campuses, building on that. We're going to pay attention to where and how we have the suburbs that were designed tactically denatured, let alone New York City. In other words, in water, we're going to pay attention to how nature wants us to use water and why we long and thirst. We hunger and thirst and long relative to this, but now through systems tactically abridged, let alone self-valued roles with it, right? Where no one self-values it, someone speaks, giving the motors to screen the breaching method. Exactly what it needs. Perfected that. Uses of it remote. You use you guys since you were kids remotely, pretending it's debatable. That James Madison's the only one founder that we know the name of who disbelieves. Nature itself shows us this. How are they going to appreciate Marbury versus Madison? Still wrong.